everybody. We are here at the LCK 2021 Spring, and we are getting into our second match of the night. T1 up against DRX. Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the LCK. T1 looking super strong, and we are getting into our second match of the night. T1 up against DRX. Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the LCK.
The last match was interesting from a playoff perspective, right? Because it was about who gets that alley-oop to 6th place. However, this one, I'm going to be looking at the gameplay. I want to see what these two teams have in store, because these are the teams we are going to be looking towards to actually make a run far into playoffs. And for both of these teams, that not necessarily would have expected in different points of the split.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, it could be close, or who knows? I mean, T1 in their last match against Gen G, they just stomped him 2-0. And that's kind of, you know, the buff that they get against Gen G, so it does happen. But another test does lie in wait for them here. As we do have the points of the match ready, we can delve a little bit deeper this matchup, as this is a preview of the playoffs, or could potentially be. We don't know if they're going to go head-to-head in the playoffs, but T1 started their winning streak versus DRX, who did take a hit by Nongshim in their last matchup.
And Nongshim, as we saw last game, yes, they're strong, but they are somewhat inconsistent, and I think a lot of people expected DRX to kind of easily deal with them, and it is one of the trademarks of DRX that they can be a little bit inconsistent, whereas T1, yes, they've been inconsistent, but it is partly due to roster swaps, and this is the same veteran lineup that took down Gen G, that's starting again, of course, a rerun from the lineup, minus effort plus carrier, which with carrier's current form is not bad whatsoever. And T1 in great shape right now.
For sure. And obviously a lot of talk about Kana as well. You can see at the bottom there, will he be able to outplay Kingan's aggressive performance? Kingan has been one of the surprises alongside of DRX in spring of 2021, where we didn't really expect too much, but they've been overperforming and have been putting on some great performances. So Kana, in his return in his last matchup against Rascal from Gen G, he clobbered him and had a fantastic couple of performances. So definitely looking towards to that top of the lane there, as we'll take a look at the round 2 stats here. You can see that T1's round 2 has been quite strong.
It's been impressive, and I think T1 was a team that, through myriad of reasons, right? Of course, the roster swaps came in, but also just I think the individual players like Gumayushi, like Closer, that just had issues with not finding these gold leads, because if you go back to the round 1 stats, they won't be as good, but they'll look somewhat similar, but then actually leveraging it. But we've seen Faker return, we've seen Teddy return, Cousin Kana back since last week as well, and that has turned the team from we find early game leads and then find a way to, in the mid game, not get it done, to we just stomp you from start to finish.
Yeah.
Because that is a 100% win rate with a gold lead at 15, and that is not the round 1 T1 that we saw.
Yeah.
This is playoffs T1, hopefully here to stay.
Yeah, round 2 has been totally different here for T1. Seems like they're honing in on their best roster, and we finally do have a couple of series in a row that complete the same roster here. Kana returns to the top lane. Cuz talking about another veteran there. Faker, everybody knows Faker. Once again returning there to the mid lane. And Teddy has been just outstanding in recent times and might just be the best AD carry right now. And that's hard. I mean, the AD carry pool is pretty insane in the LCK. Alongside of Carrier, certainly helps when he has him by his side.
That is definitely a big boon, whereas if we look at the DRX lineup, at the start of the split it was just Pioshik. I still hold that the rest of the lineup has really stood up to a lot of the tests, and it's really the cohesiveness and vigor of this lineup that really impresses me. However, purely looking at laning phase, I think Bao and Becca are going to be in for a really rough one. As you pointed out, Teddy and Carrier have been absolutely insane. I don't expect Soka to have any issues. I think Kingan should be fine as well, but there's a reason why this is the key play, or why these are the key players, because that's a pretty big gap in terms of stats, Valdez.
Yeah, and you know, it's his round 2, right? So keep in mind that Teddy didn't play every round 2 match, so you know his the amount of games that he's played, obviously they're not pulling stats from a pool of like 50 games or anything like that. But when he does come out, he has incredible performances. as was very clear there. Bao began to become the talk of the town there for a bit, but slowly faded away once again. He had a couple of great performances on the Kai'Sa and the Xayah, and everybody was like, wow, this guy might be an up-and-comer. But since then, hasn't really been shining as bright as that moment, but certainly has the talent. Again, the question is, can he stand up to this incredible T1 bot lane?
And that is one of the main questions coming into this. I think that we do know that DRX are going to throw curveballs. I don't think if you go into a straight matchup as DRX, you're very confident just through like the sheer power and veterancy that we've seen on this T1 roster. And then if they had difficulties with this roster and it was just this roster the entirety split, you might feel a little bit more enthusiastic, but they haven't, right? Like the matches that we saw them in, specifically against Gen G, it was incredibly dominant. And Gen G, even though they looked weak in that series, it is, of course, you called it the T1 buff. I don't know if it's the Gen G debuff or the T1 buff. Or maybe it's both. Could work as well. That is not going to be a factor here. So DRX are definitely in a position where weird curveballs can maybe provide some difficulties here for T1. Simultaneously, I'm having a hard time thinking of something that you can reliably find as an entry point or a consistent weak spot in this T1 roster, meaning that DRX need to forge a plan that just stands on its own and is not reliant on, for example, against some of the weaker teams, isolating a bot lane or isolating a top lane and then hammering that point down from there.
Love the Seraphine ban.
Oh yeah, that one is obligatory. That one is mandated.
Especially when Faker just played 2 games of it and looked incredible. Yeah. You know, Seraphine, everybody looks at the encores in the later stages of the game, and that's kind of where she does get a lot of her power, but her sustain is ridiculous. And Faker's ability to stay present in the mid lane was really great as well. So he kind of just brought everything to the table for that pick, not to mention that it's just incredibly strong. So they take that away, and they take away Keриa's Thresh, which is also a great idea.
Thresh in general has really been rising through the ranks of the pick and ban priority here. As I guess we're going to take Kai'Sa?
Or Udyr.
That will be... Actually, yeah, Udyr is more likely based on the priority we've seen from teams thus far. And I wouldn't particularly mind it. I'm imagining that's the direction that they are going to go in, just through like sheer tier list power pick. And for T1, I'm expecting them to be able to end up with at least decent prior lanes. However, if DRX really want to try and provide a big problem for T1, you might be looking at something like Sorka, put him on the Syndra, and then save your counter pick for Kingen, and then kind of go from there, which gives you the opportunity to get 2 pushing prio lanes, which will make Pioshik's life a lot easier.
We're seeing the Lilia hover, but, you know, when Hecarim's available, not necessarily a good idea nowadays. Riven hover as well.
Look at the grin.
Lots of, you know, talk around the Rift about the crazy stuff that Pioshik is playing in solo queue. And he is actually going to lock in that Lilia. So, you know, I was mentioning the Hecarim actually with the Udyr already picked it. You know, it's pretty safe. So he knows what the jungle matchup is coming in, so it's my bet on that one. But certainly going to be pretty nice for Pioshik to pick that one up. And this is pretty interesting. When you pick the Kai'Sa, you know, Teddy hasn't played any Tristana yet, but I guarantee you he can play it. We'll see if they do opt into that pick.
Might be going for a Kalista here, which is something that just because it's Teddy, I can kind of see happen. Kalista, of course, traditionally not a pick that excels in terms of late game power, but when it's Teddy piloting it, the equation is a little bit different. As we're not gonna talk about these offers. The Gnar here for Kana. Kana is actually one of the players who I feel confident that he can pilot after his hiatus. He looks incredibly well-rounded, and the Gnar is a pick that is hard to counter. I think if you go for something for like a Camille on Kingen, there is still an opportunity for Kana to get something done. As blind Zoe here from Faker.
Very interesting.
Oh,
I mean, they take away his Azir, but I mean, the guy can play pretty much anything. And he decides that today is Zoe Day. And so it's pretty cool. I think a lot of fans will be excited that it's not something like a Seraphine or like a Karma mid or the Galio that he always used to play to help out the team. It's a little bit more carry-oriented, as Jace is going to be the choice here for DRX into the Gnar in the top lane, you'd imagine.
And that is a very good matchup for the Jace. Kingen should be expected to actually find that early prio, and that's something that I was talking about earlier, where if Kana can't actually supplement Cuz and provide him with a lot of safety, that Udyr might get into trouble. I do think that just the raw power of Udyr in the early levels pre-6 is still more than enough to kind of keep Piosik on the back foot, but then once 6 has passed, you get the sleep available, there's a lot more setup, it becomes a lot harder. As I was just about to say, I would like to see T1 ban out some stable mid laners, kind of force Sorka into a more volatile matchup, and then see if Faker can find an edge there, as that's a classic. I don't think the Ezreal was particularly strong right now. Kai'Sa also historically considered kind of a soft counter to the Ezreal, but it's steady, so I get it. You know, I don't mind it as much.
Yeah. It changes when you're going into this player.
Yeah.
Leona going to be taken off the board. That's actually a pick that Keria has shown some really great play on so far. He's 4-0, but they want to deny the Kai'Sa Leona in the bottom side, I suppose, as Lucian gets hovered. We're thinking about a pick here for the mid lane, it seems.
That will be, yeah, that will be the basic. Said it earlier, I think the Syndra is something that you can put Sorka on and have him be fine. This is interesting because I actually think that now the early levels are going to be a little bit easier for Faker to have pressure in that lane. However, I do quite like the pickup of the Victor in that you have a lot of poke already with this composition, right? You have your bowling balls, you have your Jace, and now with the Victor it becomes harder to engage on top of you. And I don't know how I feel about this Xayah. Xayah has kind of dropped in priority as a counterpick to the Kai'Sa. You can of course go for the Xayah Rakan here. And actually, honestly, Xayah Rakan I kind of like. I think that the Nautilus is also perfectly fine. Just find it hard engage. And also take away a possible Nautilus from back here, because Kai'Sa Nautilus is also really, really strong.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that hard engage is going to be really just super nice with the Nautilus. And we know Keria is good on those hook champions.
Oh, yeah.
So going to be throwing down the Nautilus here. Alistair is available, so in terms of a kind of squishy poke composition that DRX have on their side, that will offer some disengage for them.
And the DRX comp here, I think that they have a lot of raw power, especially on the top side. And I think the idea of the composition is you poke, you know, with your Jace and with your Victor, you kind of fish for a big bowling ball or a big empowered shock blast, and then Becca goes in, Bao follows up, you know, Piosik and King and jump in, and then you clean it up from there. However, if you are going up in a straight up 5v5 scenario, T1 gets control of the river, you don't know where Kana is, and Faker gets to just throw balls at you, or sleepy trouble bubbles rather, consistently, then that might become a lot harder. So I think that in terms of sheer execution, the T1 comp definitely favored.
Yeah.
But the DRX have actually shown that poke compositions are something that fit within their wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's definitely something they should be pretty comfortable with as a team. But, you know, as you're kind of alluding to, I think if T1 get ahead here, it's going to be pretty difficult for them to get much done. I mean, you're going to be throwing empowered shock blasts into, accelerated shock blasts into Nautilus Gnar, right? It's going to be hard, and the Udyr as well. It's going to be hard to hit the squishy underbelly of the Zoe Xayah. And, you know, T1 have shown that their early game is pretty fantastic, whereas DRX's is more of a, you know, we get behind and then we slowly push our way through in really pristine late game team fights, but I'm not sure if this is the composition to play that kind of style with. It's going to be interesting to see if they can make it work here, as we are going to hop onto the Rift for game number 1.
It should at least be a game with a lot of action, Veldas, and that is something that I welcome. No resident sleep, I guess kind of with the Victor, but the Zoe at least provides us with some fun and interactive gameplay.
Yeah, we got Cloud Drake too.
Oh.
So even that, you know, we had 2 Cloud Souls in the first series, and even that series didn't disappoint. So
yeah,
now we won't have a Cloud Soul.
Even better.
And you're saying there's going to be action. Sounds like you're trying to curse it.
Is this maybe it's too much? You know, maybe too much excitement is a bad thing. Maybe you want to not have a relevant soul in your game.
Yes. That's something we've learned over here at the LCK, especially when KT is playing. You don't want to get excited.
Yeah.
You're just going to be hit with the Cloud Soul.
I was decently excited, like at the first 3 weeks for KT.
So it was you.
Yeah, and that was the mistake.
It was your fault.
I got excited. It was single-handedly me who cursed it. I think it's the only logical conclusion to that one.
Yeah, it feels like caster curses are stronger when you're like a newer commentator, right?
Yeah, no, I've had that a lot.
It's kind of like beginner's luck, right? You get the
then
stronger
bad.
curse. Yeah. Beginner's bad luck.
Honestly, you know, I feel like it's just been like kind of a continuous thing where caster curses just this split have been, not just in the LCK, but just across all regions, have been fairly potent, you know? Maybe it all started with a certain monologue that took place at Worlds, and the caster curse scene has just never recovered. Pretty nice early trading here from Solka. But I do expect this lane early on to go decently even until the point where Faker gets a little bit VP and Solka is still leveling up and trying to get that evolve on laser. And then from that point in time, he will be able to find a little bit more, but this early trading looking pretty hot. However, Prio will be available here for Pyosik in most of his lanes, and I wonder if he's going to do something with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely known to do stuff like that. In the
A
past,
lot,
right?
in general.
This Pyosik, unless he's playing something like an Udyr, can kind of just find himself farming it out in the early game as you do on a pick like that, but this time it's going to be Cuz that does pilot that one. We're taking a look at the return of the solo kill machine, something like that. And yeah, I mean, in his last couple of games, he certainly was solo killing and dominating in that matchup against Rascal. As we're having a fight here over the blue buff, Pyosik is going to take a lot of damage. Comes down to the smite, and Pyosik will pick that one up. And with the priority in the top side, you can see that Kana's kind of getting baited into this fight. And Kingen still has Flash. He doesn't even need to use it there. That is really unfortunate. Kingen going to shut that down. And that certainly helps out Pyosik on his invade.
And that's a really, really great start here for the top side. And we haven't even said it yet. You know, will Pyosik use the early prio? The answer is yes, and aggressively so. I did not expect that to work out. An early Udyr invade is something that's really, really risky, but Pyosik does it beautifully, uses the red buff to kite efficiently there, wins the smite fight. And as you said, Kana just gets baited in, and that is a great start here for King, and double scuttle might be coming up, although there is bots up prio here for Teddy and Carrier.
Yeah, you know, Carrier can come up here, and actually, you can see that Pyosik is respecting this a lot.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to have to deal with that Nautilus here as level 4 Lilia. So, nice stopping on the back here, actually, from Faker. This is going to be very valuable.
Especially because the blue buff is still up. Maybe they want to go for an invade here. We do see some pings, but in the end, decide the better of it. Do get the vision there. And in that light, like Faker playing really aggressively for the back cancel makes even more sense. I think Solka always teleports back there, but in a scenario where you find an early deficit, or rather an early window, maybe your team can use it. Doesn't actually come to fruition this time, though.
I didn't even know that Xayah has played 14 games. But apparently, here in 2021 spring, they are 14-14 in this matchup alone. So we're going to take another look at how this even happened in the top lane.
It's Kana starting off a trade on the back end of his Mega Gnar. That is, yeah.
Did he miss the... Okay, I don't know. It seemed like he was just able to not get stunned up, and Kingen is just putting on a clinic up in the top side now.
Veldas, I said, you know, Kana is one of the players where maybe I have faith in him to blind pick the Gnar and not get punished.
Did you now?
I did, yeah.
It was you again.
Every time he keeps getting away with it, but not this time. I will pay my my dues, I guess, in terms of casting cursing. I'm very sorry, Kana. Possible gank here though.
Now, a little 4 on Cuz, but you know he can slap. He's not going to be able to this time around, though.
Not slap, Velvet. Excuse you.
He cannot slap. I apologize. Yes. No, this time around, he is not going to be able to slap.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's level 4 Udyr, who's taken time out of his day to just try to come up there, relieve some pressure, maybe get a flash out of the Jace. Doesn't really amount to much except delaying some of his farm time, which is not a great feel.
The one upside is that even though it feels like Carrier has not been in his lane for, I want to say like 20%, 25% of the laning phase, Teddy's still up a good 13 CS as Cuz. Round number 2, he didn't clear his ward last time, so yeah. I don't know about that one.
Kingen just drops a ward in his face, and he's like, "Listen, dude,
No,
you're not coming here. You're not going to gank me. It's not happening. Just leave." And you see that ward from Solka. The other thing that does, you know, it provides some safety for him, but also it stops the other. Oh man, I don't even know what to say about that. That's unfortunate. Kingen's still in an awkward spot. Doesn't want to get walloped here. He is going to try to flash it, but misses it. And it ends up being a kill for Faker in the end, so a really nicely timed roam here. Faker's really trying to help all his lanes right now.
And he needs to, Valdez, because this is the second mis-execution coming out from Kana's Na, and his previous games were against Rascal. Rascal literally still has the highest number of solo kills in the entirety of the LCK. We saw the man solo kill Syed as Cho'Gath.
Yeah.
That's not okay. Like that's we laugh, but that's not something that should happen.
It was glorious.
It was glorious. We were
you and I, the Cho'Gath fans, watching from home, just giggling.
Yeah, we had a great time watching that one come to fruition. But it is something that, like, his performance was really, really good. And I don't know if it's nerfs. I don't know if it's just inconsistent form, but we have seen players like bounce back within the game. That's what Kana needs to do here. This is two critical mistakes. Fortunately for him, in this case, it still gets the job done, right? Like, I think this is also, like, it looks kind of troll, but it's also a nice sidestep from Kingen, and him dodging away to that
phase
side.
rush, right?
Exactly. Him dodging away to that side actually does mean that he buys time for Faker, so it's not... I take it back. I don't think that's, like, purely a mis-execution. I just think it's actually a really nice play from Kingen. Fortunately, Faker is there to salvage the play. And now we do get an early kill on the Zoe, which is pretty great. However, Pioshik's back again.
You got the red buff here on the Udyr, and Pioshik is getting really aggressive. A solo kill in the jungle. Now we got a 2v2 down on the bottom side. The Killer Instinct comes in. Teddy's just trying to get out of dodge, but he cannot. As the straight-up 2v2 kill will go the way of DRX. And now Becca just trying to body block here. He's got the stun coming up. It doesn't look like he can quite edge out that second kill, but still a nice win for the bottom lane of DRX.
It's a bloodbath, and of all people, Teddy and Carry are not ones you expect to lose lane, and T1 as a whole looking a little bit more shaky here, but also gotta give credit to DRX. Besides that one play by Pioshik, they're also looking pretty on point here tonight mechanically, very sharp, and it's one of the reasons why we do actually put a lot of stock in this team. They have their inconsistencies, but when they're on, they look really, really good. This though, yeah, it's a red buff Udyr. Last time it went well, also due to like the smite fight and it being really early on. Taking a nap after that, it's gotta feel good. And yeah, this is just straight up a really nice play from Backer. Set it up. I don't know what else to tell you. Teddy also not able to find the better pullback thanks to a great flash from Bao there. And that's pretty much the end of that play, as Kana presumably took the end of a trade that wasn't super great based on his health bar.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah.
He is hitting Meganar, but he's going to have to leave. He will have teleport soon, but based on the teleport cooldown, of course, it's probably going to be like 20 seconds-ish. So probably will just have to run up to the top side unless he wants to wait. As nope, he's just going to jump on up. But this means plates for Kingen and more of a lead, even though he does get ganked there by Faker that one time.
So Faker, you know, you have the item anyway, might as well use it. Maybe if Pioshik actually makes this gank work, wishes he hadn't. No bowling ball hit.
Yeah, Pioshik's kind of in an awkward spot after dying there. As another bubble is going to hit onto Faker. Gravity Field comes in, but this is still great poke damage coming out from Faker, making Solka's life pretty difficult. He also picked up the Dark Seal, so after getting the kill up in the top side, he's got a couple of stacks. So Faker on a champion that can carry. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how far he can take this Zoe.
And we did see Kuz able to take the Rift Herald. I'm pretty sure that's why Kana was so low. Possibly some poke coming through here. We'll be able to march towards that top side. A dive on King and could set up a first turtle blood here, but Meganar already being used.
Still going to come out here, gets that stun down and into the wall. He is just stun locked from 100 to 0. That's the kill and the Demolish proc and the Rift Herald that they can use to get an insane amount of damage onto that top turret now.
But you know what they gave up, Valdez? one Cloud Drake.
Oh, no.
That's a trade you'll take any time of the day as T1. Really great choice there from Cuz. However, Teddy and Carrier not able to actually defend the turret here. Will still be first turret blood, but they will be able to rather give up a little bit more than otherwise might be the case. But this first turret blood is going to help Kana out a lot. He's going to feel a lot that. Oh my god, that's 700 gold. That is. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot, Valdez.
A lot of money.
Yeah, and that is something that I think Kana also really needed, because what we do see here is that if you actually do get the lockdown on Jace, he's also immediately like he's Nami, right? Like he's a tasty snack that Kana's gonna have no difficulty dealing with, and that's kind of what you're gonna be looking for now that the boots are finished. As
5, 4, 3,
and now he's dead. Like. That's the problem, if you can't flash out. And honestly,
wow.
Even if you do flash out, I don't even necessarily know if you live that. I think Kana might like go for the flash, hop on the minions, and then still find you. But at the very least, you are able to save a little bit more time. Maybe you don't give up first turret blood immediately instead. Gold lead is extending it for T1. I'd like to draw your attention. They have a Dumbon-esque stat here. Oh, Kingen.
Well, he's got his blast this time, but there's such a long lane that there's no reason to. He knows he's just going to get run down by the Udyr, so he just has to accept his fate again. Talk about turning that matchup on its head. It was looking so doomed before, as now the engage this time around will be Feather Storms. Carrier has his Aftershock procced, is going to get the triple knockup, and now a TP coming in here from the Gnar. Well,
that's fine, it's 2 flashes.
Yeah, he gets the double flash, but at the same time not able to get the stun as, ooh, nice engage here from Carrier, trying to get on in now is Bao. But do they have the damage? It doesn't look like it. Now into the turret, the Chaos Storm not actually able to get any consistent damage there. And that means that T1 will get out of dodge, although Faker is going to take a shot to the face. And DRX will be able to push this turret now.
In the end, when all the dust settles and the skirmish is over, I guess it's a win for DRX here. They do give up a lot of the summoners, but so does T1. And pick up a couple of extra plays here for Kingen. Lane swap can now be initiated. Probably going to put Sorka towards that mid or top side with Kingen in the other side lane. And yeah, I don't. This is the unfortunate scenario with the Jace and kind of why we do put a lot of pressure on the Jace to do well. It's because once you get to a lane, like a game state where you actually can get ganked, or like you don't have a lot of built-in safety, you're just in for a really rough one. I quite like the idea here. I think that it's a bit greedy from Teddy and Carrier to go for this, knowing that your jungler has just backed, but considering the teleport, it does make a lot of sense. I think that forcing the flash there is completely fine. Main issue that now they need to try with all their might to defend Teddy. If you don't hit that hook, this looks completely different, because I'm pretty sure both Teddy and Kana just immediately get blown up.
At least Teddy.
Yeah, that was Carrier. You know, he's a good support, Valdez.
He's
pretty impressive.
Done some crazy things, and that's just going to add to the long list of crazy things he's done. And, you know, the main thing about taking down that top turret, you mentioned like the gank pressure that comes onto the Jace, but also it allows the Gnar to just get out of that lane. He doesn't have to sit there and take blows from the Jace over and over. He can head down to mid. He can help out with some objectives. It ends that laning phase early and makes you feel so nice. And take a look at the CS. I mean, Gnar's in a fantastic spot compared to that Jace. And you think about that counter pick. Takes so much power away from that if you can just leave the lane.
And I gotta give credit over to Cuz as well. Interestingly, and this is what you see, like, in the end, it is actually DRX that gets more out of play gold. The fact that T1 was able to pick up the first turret blood is what really gets them ahead, combined with, of course, the advantages and kills that they were able to find. But as a whole, it's kind of a flip of what we normally see, where Bao and Becca actually like are straight up winning the 2v2 against Teddy and Carrier. Now, not to a point where the matchup is a problem. There's a possible collapse onto Kana here. Still with Mega Gnar, but I don't think this is going to end well.
Kana's been having a fun time, but unfortunately, there have been some mistakes. And he is a bit out of position, but he's looking to turn it around now. He does not have Mega Gnar, though. They do have the damage to blow him up. Cuz trying to get on top of Pyosik here, going 1v3. As that hook is going to sail wide. Teddy not able to win that fight on Solka in the river, as Faker looking for the big wallop there onto the Alistair. And he's going to do a nice amount of damage. Bowling Ball will sail wide, and nobody else is going to go down here, just Kana.
And that's a painful one, because that means a second Drake hit for DRX. And yes, the DRX comp is hard to execute, but this is not a comp that skills poorly. I think Lilia up until 2 to 3 items.
Infernal too.
Yeah, this is going to be good. And this is just straight up, you know the Drake is coming up, and we see this time and time again. Normally, I think a straight up like dog pile towards you as a top laner can feel kind of bad, but in this scenario, you should know it's coming, because you know that DRX is going to try and contest this Drake. The subsequent play then, trying to make it work here without your main 2 damage dealers, just causing carrier is not really going to happen. As you see, the moment that Faker comes in, they do actually have damage, but at that point, Cuz is chunked, Teddy is chunked, and they can't actually contest. And DRX's comp, individually they skill very well. Victor, self-explanatory, same for the Kai'Sa. As said, I think Pioshik's utility remains viable for the entirety of the game. I think up till 2-3 items he also keeps like increasing in strength. Whereas T1, I think the front to back comp is super duper strong, but you do need to execute it well. You're down 2 Drakes, and if you have another mistake like that and you give over a soul point, then all of a sudden this game becomes super contentious, and maybe the pressure a little bit mounting here for T1, but I think Kingen is in trouble again.
Yeah, well, with the teleport coming in here, they are really looking to bully this Jace down. They're just going to wait until Kana simply pushes the lane. Kingen, no escape for him, and he knows it. Just trying to do as much damage as possible before he does go down. What can DRX get on the map while this is happening? Well, I suppose a turret for Solka up on the top side, so they trade a kill on the bot for a turret on the top.
And normally you feel good about this because you're forced to teleport, but it's Faker, and he has unsealed spellbook, so not as good as usual.
Got him. As now, Cuz thinking about it, doesn't have his chem tank, so not going to be as solid of a dive. So they're just going to go ahead, take down that mid turret. Solka doesn't join up here. He's got teleport, but doesn't care. Maybe would have teleported if the dive did happen, but for now he'll just continue pushing.
The key takeaway here, though, is that T1 is not actually able to find the early game leads that we've seen him take again and again and again against a lot of other teams against DRX. And DRX is a team that, if we look at the wins that they find, it feels like they kind of come out of nowhere. It feels like DRX is losing the game up until the point that they're not. Right, and plays like this really nicely set up, just a lot of pressure in side lanes, but outside of a kill on Udyr of all people, it doesn't actually get you a lot, right? You also don't invest a lot. It's a 1-for-1 trade in terms of turrets, so it's fine, but this is not going to be what wins you the game, and I want to see T1 actually be able to turn these kind of plays into more than just an outer turret. I want to see Drakes, I want to see Barons, or I want to see more kills come from it, because otherwise, I think DRX is going to be at a point in the game where normally other teams would lose, and then they somehow find a pick and win the game off of that, because that's what they've been doing throughout the entirety of the split.
Yeah, and you know, I saw you rubbing your hands there when we had the Infernal Soul, because it means so much for this game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every single Drake even. But especially because DRX were able to take these first 2, and even just 1 Infernal Drake, which, again, is awesome, it gets them to Soul Point, which will maybe just be lights out. I mean, you talked about the amount of scaling and damage that they have.
Yeah, no.
1 accelerated shock blast hits a good target, even a bad target, right? Like a tank. You're still doing insane damage with Infernal Soul. So that threat is going to be there. All of these fights are really going to decide, who is going to be taking this game. And so it's going to create a lot of action. And that's really what we're here to see. Faria is, he's got an angry cow on his back. Faker going to hit a huge amount of damage, actually. Note his itemization. Banshee's Veil first after the Verdant Barrier against Lilia Victor. Take notes, guys. You don't always have to rush your Mythic. And in this case, seems to be definitely the right choice.
We've actually seen a lot of more experimentation with that, right? We, of course, have Ezreal, who doesn't even need to build a Mythic necessarily. We have champions like Aurelio build it 2nd or 3rd, depending on the game state. So it's nice to see some variations. Zhonya's first is also one we commonly see for champions like the Lilia. In this case, Pioshik going for double mask first and presumably then into a Zhonya's. And I love this. T1, everyone that needs to back has already backed, hopefully. I don't want to see Kana or Faker back now. Like, that's not allowed. Get that Prio in the mid lane, set up vision, and start throwing poke. This is where the Zoe shines. This Drake is 100% must get for T1, and DRX are looking to contest.
Every Drake from here on out, it is so important. As Faker, he's really just scouting, you know, over the wall with that Zoe. And some of the wall is actually removed with the Infernal Rift, so pretty interesting how that affects the Zoe. Becca and Solka, actually everybody on the side of DRX looking to get on in here. This is the poke you're looking for. Faker and Kingen, I suppose, have got the longest range poke, so it's going to be on them to really land that pre-fight damage. As already this Drake is started up, the bubbles not really landing. DRX have got a nice spread so far. As the Mega Gnar is going to come out here, DRX may need to respect this. As the Paddle Star going to miss once again, Ingo's carry, he actually misses, and they kill him, and the Gnar ultimate hits nobody as well. As they flash away from that one, and now the front to back here from DRX is just huge. As they take down 2 and T1 have to turn tail. They cannot fight this one. Teddy was not able to join this fight. And they're just looking for more, as they want to get more kills here. Feel like the Infernal Drake would be good enough, but okay. They finally give up on that one, and now they're going to take the Infernal Drake.
4 instant flashes, Valdez, from DRX there. That is a play that, if you don't have flash that's just a one-team fight right from the get-go. But as you say, just carrier going in is not enough. He needs the backup from his Gnar, but Kana was 100% spotted. And the Gnar ultimate is one that you get 100% flash away from. It was too obvious of a setup from T1. It might work against a lesser team, but we've seen that DRX, this is where they shine. At the same time, though, if you pick up a Baron for it, it's just Soul Point, not Soul, so that's a trade you'll take as T1.
You'll take it. We'll see if they can actually take down the Baron. We have the teleport committed to here by Solka, but with the Nautilus in that brush, that's very threatening for Solka. He's actually going to ult on a Pyosik, so there's no hope of the steal. They're looking for a follow-up engage, but the Mega Gnar is coming on in here. Looks like they want to get in there anyway. DRX really looking to force this as Becca is going to go down. We get the sleep now onto Kana, who is going to have to hop away. And a ton of damage coming in, but the exhaust is pretty huge. Kana this time able to land his abilities, just trying to sacrifice for his team. As Faker is trying to do some follow-up damage, and everybody else is able to get away from there with the Baron buff intact.
Oh, the bowling ball.
You see Teddy not even flinch? He's like, yeah, I'm totally fine.
No, I'm not afraid. Like, we're getting excited. Teddy is not as the teleport.
What? Faker's angry, and you know what? No flash available for Bao. That's just a free kill. They're going to get one.
No, they don't know where he is. Come on, blind bubble Faker. You can do this. You got this.
Because it's pretty fast, but not fast enough.
And I gotta agree with you there. I feel like if DRX just straight up immediately go for the Infernal Drake and then back, and then that Baron doesn't happen, like 100%, but instead they spend, I don't know, like 30 seconds chasing down Zoe, and it's just, that is a questionable decision coming out there from DRX, who, honestly, up until that point, that team fight was so beautifully played. It was super well executed. They knew what T1 tried to do, to go for the hard re-engage and the big flank there with the Gnar. It was spotted, and they responded as well as you possibly could, winning the team fight. But then, there's also, this is the reason why DRX lost against Motion, right? But consistently that we talk about the over-eagerness. That's the flip side of the medal of being a young, enthusiastic, really happy-go-lucky team. Sometimes a little bit too happy-go-lucky, and now it's T1 with Baron.
Yeah, which is interesting because, you know, in round one, when it got to the late game, they were kind of like stone cold.
Oh, yeah.
They were just always very consistent, but now things have kind of changed in round two. Maybe a little bit excited with some of their success that they've had in recent times. And you can see Faker, I mean, he's got 7 stacks. He has the stopwatch still. He's looking for teleport plays to pick up kills. And this is always going to be really rough to deal with here in terms of the damage. But DRX on soul points. We'll see if they can actually push the Infernal Soul, because I think if you get that, you just have enough damage to burst down anyone on the side of T1.
That's the main issue here, is that yes, T1 get Baron. Yes, they get a sizable gold leads. Although 2K, you know, obviously is not mind-blowingly big. But in a minute and a half, a little bit more, the flashes are going to be up again. And T1, you can't go for that play again. We've seen it doesn't work. DRX, they're ready today. The fingers are on the buttons. And here we can see it yet again. Like, this is not a misexecution, right? This is legitimately just really well played by DRX. All the damage dealers just like, hell no. And then, obviously, the gap between Cuz, Faker, and Teddy and Kana and Carrier is too big. Carrier at that point already dead. And then, we don't see this here, but that chase that is being set up by DRX is really what's the nail in the coffin here, because it buys T1 so much more time. And then, yes, of course, they get a couple of exit kills here. However, they also... Yeah, thank you.
And Becca dies for it.
Worse. Yeah. So that's not worth it at all. But we've seen this time and time again, that when there is just a single Drake away from Seoul, the team that has that position can always come back. And this is DRX who excel at coming back. This was really funny, though. I don't...
Yeah. No escape for Bao.
Look at it go.
Nothing he can do.
Oh no.
And now, this is what I wanted to watch. DRX taking the time here now to push down the mid lane. Faker not going to hop over the wall just yet. There he goes. Trying to clear out that wave. They're trying to get as much value here before the Drake even spawns. You can see that the poke damage is huge, as Faker desperately trying to carry this himself. Not able to extend that onto Solka. And now we got Meganar coming out here. That might be extinguished by the time this Drake fight even starts. And you can see DRX, they're like, nope, 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 nope. Get me out of here. I'll just wait until you're Mininar again.
I would like to divert your attention to the red buttons on the side of DRX's screen. They're all okay. Besides Alistair, but you don't care about him. All those flashes available. The health bars are already low, and T1 cannot afford to lose this fight.
If you give away Infernal Soul here, it might just be game over. We'll have to wait and see how this one goes, but no Meganar. Faker's low. The burst coming in. Can Cuz steal it is the question, and you will! Cuz will steal the Infernal Drake and give them a chance at winning this game. As the sleep will come in. Not sure about this follow-up engage, but they do get the Drake at least and deny the Infernal Soul from DRX.
Straight up not necessary, you got the Drake, get the hell out of there T1, but importantly, they find this Infernal Drake, and if that soul goes over, with this composition from DRX, your health bars are just not existent as T1, but you already see the amount of damage that comes through here, and this was a steal with a level deficit, so man, shout out to Cuz, he's been smashing it on the Udyr, coming back after a long hiatus. I think is also currently rank 1 in solo queue, I think he might even have multiple counts as this is great. Look at these health bars. Why are you re-engaging?
Run.
Run. Then again, you could argue that, you know, like, you're gonna die there. I think that if just Carrier goes in and like stalls, then you should probably be fine. Maybe T1 made the call, listen, we're just gonna sack both Carrier and Kana, and there's no objective, so it's fine, right? Like that, I can see that to be the call. I hope the call was not we re-engage, because with Faker and Teddy that low, please do not do that. And now, as T1, it feels weird, but they've bought themselves another 3.5 minutes. But with the just power on the side of DRX and how well they're executing these fights, I do not actually know if T1 is favored in a late game scenario here, gold lead or not. And this is a nice edge game here, Valdez.
Yeah, this is a great start to what could be a 3-game series, even if it's not. I mean, these games, this game at least, I mean, it's not disappointing.
It's XT1 too, and also DRX who love 3-game series. So like, let's be. I'm hoping for free, man.
We better have it. We better get it. Teleport committed to here. That is Faker. Again, he does have the unsealed spellbook, as you mentioned before. A little bit of K-Ram, you know, he got this Baron up, so with the amount of damage on both sides, actually, you got to be careful for either team to just rush it down. This Teddy is going to have to life steal up a bit here. And with not much vision, Cuz got a really nice control ward up there. I believe that was him at least that placed this one, so it spots them in the river for now. Ooh, Faker finds Solka, but not going to go for it just yet.
One of the problems is that with Becca, you actually have someone who can just face tank these paddle stars the moment that someone gets hit. So outside of skirmishes, it's actually really hard for T1. And T1's engage is good, Nautilus can go in, but the problem is with just DRX are basically full damage dealers, right?
Yeah.
And like that, not just any damage dealers, but a Fed Jace, a Victor in the late game that's hit his 2-item spike and is building towards a third, Bao, which honestly is self-explanatory, and Pioshik, who is also what looks like not going for a Zhonya's, but going for a straight-up Void Stuff as his third item. So like
I love it, actually.
Yeah, they're there, and that means that if T1 engages and it's not a straight-up win of the fight, and that's why they're so hesitant, you just get blown up, right? You lose because they all flash away, and then their kite back is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
So T1 needs to find DRX out of position, but DRX have actually been super diligent at now not getting caught out of position.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I was just laughing at the B.
No,
he looks very happy.
Yeah, he does. I mean,
yeah.
That's. Listen, I can talk about what these two teams are doing, but in the end, it's about the players, you know, having a good time, because that's the DRX buff. Yeah, right? Like that is. The happier they are, the better they play.
You know, he's being the happy bee on comms right now, so
yeah.
Should be keeping them calm. Becca misses the scan on the ward, actually, in the river. Pretty cute position. So they know they're not on Baron, so T1 never have to engage here. They never have to face check.
Good catch. Means that they can get Prior without nearly being scared. And oh, this next Drake, Valdez.
Yeah, here we go again.
Oh boy.
Third time on these Infernal Drakes. Every single one has been a banger. We'll see how this one goes. Faker trying to get some poke damage done before the fight begins. But it's so rough because even when they land that bubble, you just throw out a shock blast and deny them from following up. Nice little split push from Kana. He's actually going to draw King in all the way up to the top side. So no poke from the accelerated shock blast now. And 4v4, I think I actually like T1's position. You can see that DRX are going to back away. Now keep in mind, DRX have to be careful too, because with the amount of damage that both sides have, that Infernal Drake can just be burst down before you even get there. So they have to get closer. Looks like they will now.
Look at King and then Kana. Kana actually, at this point in time, more than enough resistance is available. And don't forget, DRX can give up this Drake. It's not soul point. It's not a soul for T1. And it looks like they are actually going to go for that.
T1 are going to fight this one here. Becca's got a great position, but Cuz, the tanky jungler, actually not going to spot him, I don't believe. And you can see the back off here. They're wanting to turn. They find Cuz, but he's just way too fast. That's not the guy you were looking for. And the Baron continuing to go down here. Just looking for this one. All 5 members of DRX just grouped up onto this. The sleep will come in. And they could look for this fight as Becca gets a huge knock-up in the front line, and Keria already dies. Although the damage does come out here, but take a look at Teddy. He's so low, and he's just going to be burst down by the Lilia. Do they have the damage, though? Cuz is actually in that back line, and Faker stays alive for the entire time. All the other carries on the side of DRX do go down. Really nice stopwatch, though, from Pioshik staying alive. This is such a close fight, and Faker's going to take it down in the end with a double kill, as T1 will pick up the ace.
Whoa! Oh, that was just gorgeously played from so many people. In the end, it's T1 that gets away with it, but my god, what a fight that this series delivering here, Valdez. As we see, both teleports have been used, and Cuz and Carrier are just trying to keep track. There's no vision of this Baron, so they need to go in and out to see what the score is. When this sleep gets popped, they know it's now or never. We need to engage. Yes, Carrier gets blown up, but he is able to actually use his ultimate, which keeps Pioshik and Sorka out of this fight. And then it's the kite back that comes through. Yes, Teddy gets blown up, but he deals so much damage. Kana buys some space, and there is the best League of Legends player of all time that's still alive on his Zoe. The fact that Pioshik lives here is not okay. Like, I just want to reiterate that. Like, that's no, that should not have happened. Regardless, with all the flashes, at that point in time as Zoe, it's just like a, you know, you're in a carnival and you can get everything for free, and you can flash and you can dash and you can pick up as many summoners as you like, and it's T1 who gets the Drake, wins the fight, and doesn't give DRX the Baron.
They gained so much from that, and really the biggest key for me there was the ultimate from Kana into the wall on Bao. Yeah. You know, Bao with the early killer instinct, which we've seen be actually killer to the Kaisas. more often than not. You got to be really careful in the late game scenario when there's so much damage on the board. Like, you get out of position for a split second, you're just dead, right? Like, you're just not going to do any damage. It's one at Cathian Rain, and he just dies because he gets ulted into the wall and then Faker blows him up. As this might just be the fate of Solka, although that bubble is going to miss. The damage not quite there. The flash, though, from Teddy is enough. And they nearly get Becca on the back side of this. T1 are just, they've got some nerves of steel right now. But that's a lot of poke damage on a Teddy. He's going to have to get some health back here.
Yeah, that shock blast is really big because it means that T1 can't just immediately engage. Karnat didn't have the teleport available there. I don't actually think they can go for this. It looks like they might choose to do so. They are going to go for it. There is the spot. They know that this is happening. Poke is available.
Yep. You see DRX pretty hesitant to get on in here. We'll see if the Alistar, he gets knocked off out of the Hex Flash. Not sure if he was actually going to commit to that, but man, that just puts the nail in the coffin on that idea. As okay, we got some poke coming out here from DRX. Trying to stop them from coming on in here. Faker, a little bit of an awkward spot. In comes Bao. They're looking for the follow-up engage. They have enough damage to immediately take out Lilia, and Faker is just stacking up the kills at this point in time. Just smurfing it here in this game number 1.
That is quite the performance coming out from T1 here. They get the Baron, they get away, and this is going to line up perfectly. This Baron is going to time out exactly as they get to the third Infernal Drake, Valdez. And honestly, this is just carrier, right? That just absolutely smashes that. I'm not sure how that bubble missed. I don't know if Solka, like, I guess it was just a straight up miss. It looked very weird because carrier was kind of blocking the view. Here they try and go for a big counterplay. I think as Pioshik, once you miss that, actually you don't have ultimate, so like even if you do hit the bowling ball, you do not want to commit there. You should just not do that. Thank you very much. And now T1 are going to be able to shove in the lanes, possibly break an inhibitor or two, because their siege at this point in time with a 7-0 Faker is not fun for DRX. As
look at Teddy.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have flash right now. He's just, this is my rift. I'm going in there. It cannot stop me. Takes a hefty amount of damage as well.
The confidence on Teddy is really fun to see, because even though his KDA isn't very good, I feel like his aggressive play forward does actually buy a lot of space for the rest of T1, specifically Faker. And you need to deal with both. That's the thing that you're looking for here as DRX. It can't be just one of the two, because the other one will carry that fight.
Really clean vision denial here from T1. They brought all the control wards to this push. And there is just nothing, there's no way for DRX to see what direction Faker's going to come from. So this is just like Zoe's playland right now. She can do whatever she wants. And she's going to do stuff like this. 2 Infernal Drakes. That hook was a little bit doomed. Pioshik, though, okay, he's going to get the sleep, but he immediately dies. 0 follow-up from DRX. That's going to be the front line going down. And T1 looks like they may have just opened up this game. And we'll be able to take this down unless we have the insane stop from DRX.
It's a 7-man sleep from Pioshik there. Jokes aside, you can't follow up there. The front line is too big.
Oh no. Now they're just getting pounced on here. Bao not able to get out of dodge because he's just even going to live. As Bao's doing some crazy things as the Kaisa does here in the late game. But at the end of the day, he goes golden and then he goes gray screen. As Becca will survive, but at the end of the day, DRX will not. T1 picks up a huge win in game number 1, and that was insanely close, but the nerves of steel of T1 pushed them ahead for the victory.
Give me 3 of these, please. If we can order that, that'd be absolutely lovely.
Yep.
And oh my, what a series that we're treated here, Valdez, because what I loved about this series, which is something that I think the Gen G versus Damwon Kia series had as well, is that I don't get the feeling that it was DRX like mis-executing here and losing the game because of that. It was just T1 playing super well, and up until that point, DRX, they still had a shot. They put themselves in the best possible position, stacked the 3 Drakes, right? Multiple beautiful team fights. But then that final hurdle, actually getting an Infernal Soul, was denied to them, because imagine how much damage they will do once that soul comes through.
I know. You remember the steal, right? Like so many little things that happen in this game, right? The Cuz coming in alongside a Faker with the timed paddle star to get it just in range.
And
of the smite, right? It was a lot of small things.
I can only give one POG though, but really it should be like split between Cuz and Faker, because I feel like that early game from Cuz, 100% kill participation, that smite steal that actually kept him in the game, but then you look at those late game fights that Faker was able to put down, you're like,
it's hard not to vote for him.
I don't. Oh,
Zoe's pretty flashy, so I get voting for the Zoe.
But the main thing is, and this is what I really loved, is about the Zoe in a team fight is actually something where a lot of Zoe struggle, right? If you're just sieging and you're ahead, like the Zoe looks broken. And that is kind of what the champion does. But in the skirmishes, actually consistently hitting people, able to actually continuously put out damage is really, really hard. And as a whole, this was a beautiful first game. Very happy with how both teams stayed about, and I can't wait to see who did the most damage, because I don't actually know.
Well, we're going to see right now. The post-game breakdown is here, as, okay, Jace. Ends up being Jace, even after being camped in the side lane over and over. It didn't matter. The damage he did in and out of the lane was too much. Obviously, Faker following up there with some crazy team fighting. Man, super close game. T1 just barely get ahead in 39 minutes. So really down to the wire. We had, I think, 7 Drakes, maybe 6 Drakes taken there. Actually, 5 or 6 there.
Yeah,
in that
6.
one. So down to the wire. Could have been DRX's game had one team fight gone differently or a smite in any direction, right? So hopefully we get a couple more, but guys, we're going to take a break first before we get into game number 2.
오케이 하자.
야 나 변신한다. 나 변신한다.
알리프리 있어. 알리프리 있어.
그래 보죠. 그래 걸고. 도티한테 그거 약간
가이드 봐줘.
다 삐고.
빅토르.
아 아래 좋아.
빨리지 마. 야, 피갈리.
한 명씩 말해 천천히. 라인만 시켜. 라인만 시키고 끝난다. 나 포스했어. 제이스 마크 해줄게 내가.
뭉쳐있지 마.
파워치고 얘네가 거는 거 기다려.
괜찮아. 앞에부터 쳐봐. 나 타면 저도 끝나. 나 그리고 쳐주고. 나와.
가.
나온나.
고고고고. 예, 손만 중가.
아, 장난다. 왜 이렇게 못하지?
Stopwatch. He desperately trying to keep this game alive. And now Hybrid is pretty angry, as he probably should be here. We have the teleport coming in from UCal. He's going to look to try to pick up Fate. Spots him here. And now looks to be a bit of a one-on-one. He's got some teammates coming in. The stun is going to come in, and Fate is going to solo kill him and get the back off. Trying to catch Rich, but now the fight will begin as we get the knockup on Apyoshik. There's a lot of damage used on the Mudo. It's not going to work, but a huge knockup comes in from Rich. And look at this front to back. How can you pull through and do enough damage onto this Nongshim lineup? The answer is you can't. Not from this position. The gold is exactly even. It doesn't matter. So Afrika are banking on trying to go for this fight as Lehens takes so much damage, but he does the tanking. The Megadar does nothing in the front line, but the Encore is huge, and now the Gnar does something. A massive Gnar into the wall, and a double kill for the Seraphine as they totally clap the Afrika side bank.
Again?
Yeah. Gun goes in. Oh, Gravitum's still doing some work though. It's Ghost copping some auto attacks. Beryl down to 150 as Peanut is wrapping around. Beryl takes a drink. We'll see whether he's going to survive this one. The bowling ball does go wide as Peanut has to flash to get out, and the Hecarim just munches on him. Now he's looking for the rest of them as Kalin's taking a fair bit of damage, and Showmaker turns up with his Strikebreaker, misses that bubble unfortunately, but Knockdown does take the paddle side of the face. And yeah, Canyon's still very low on health, but they're going to tidy this one up. That is another kill going on over. Showmaker locks down the Leona. Goodbye, Bay. Ghost will take that kill.
Welcome back everybody for the analyst test, and it was a clash between two teams that locked in on the playoffs, and great performance from T1 all around brought themselves to a huge win. And Cuz played Udyr, a signature pick of Pyosik, and he was able to find a huge success, and that B1 Udyr was answered back with R2 Lilia. Udyr, we always mention that this champion relies heavily on the lane priority, and then T1 followed up with Gnar and Zoe, and DRX wanted to counter those two solo lane picks with Jace and Victor. So Pyosik and Lilia, because of the lane priority that Kingen and Soka had, he was able to invade the opponent's jungle, and then he got solo killed by Cuz, and that's where the momentum started to swing. Looking at the draft in a vacuum, I realized that T1 didn't have edge over DRX. It was rather DRX having a huge edge, but T1, Faker and Cuz was able to take a huge momentum swing based on the small mistakes that the opponents were making, and they were able to punish it really hard in order to turn the tide around. And also because of their AD carry having a huge champion pool, they were able to complete their bottom duo comp in the later rotation of the pick and ban, and also Xayah and Nautilus was a great tool for T1 to open team fights in the later phase. In the early game, we thought DRX had a huge lead, but at some point in this game, T1 was able to come back online, and this is where everything started. It was very critical because Jace and Victor both were able to shove in the way, but Pyosik very confidently was able to invade the opponent's jungle, but she got immediately solo kill, so Udyr rotates to Herald. And later on, Cuz rotates to top lane with the Herald's Eye, and they saw Lilia was on the Drake with the vision secured by T1. So Udyr was confident enough to gank top, and also both of the mid laners had teleport where Zoe had the TP priority in this point in the game. They were able to pull off a very easy gank on the top lane. In terms of the Jace and Gnar matchup, Jace can surely obtain the lane priority, which means that they have to convert that into Herald try, but because Lilia got caught right at the timing when the Herald got spawned, he also put Jace in a very rough spot later on. Now let's take a look at the second highlight where DRX was fighting for that Baron for a very long period of time, which was not a good try for them. So let's take a look at this replay. This was the timing for their Dragon Soul, but they actually flipped it with a Baron try, but DRX has no front line in their comp, which means they got chunked by that Baron for so long. And they were in a very awkward spot. They were not taking the Baron at the same time. They were not looking for any meaningful engage. And look at where Gnar and Zoe are. They are not paying attention to that Baron because they knew that DRX cannot really pop that Baron so fast. And Alistar was able to go in for some miracle engage, and Xayah gets stunned, so Victor goes in to clean up that kill, but she was able to survive for one more tempo. DRX was so close to winning that team fight, but because that Xayah didn't get instantly popped, the fight was actually becoming more and more dicey. And Faker and Cuz was pretty sure about the opponent's moves. Fight. In short, we also could witness the difference of impact that the two AD carry players had in this game, and the POG will go over to Faker on Zoe. Third POG of the split. Zoe was helping the top lane, Zoe was helping the Herald. Faker was getting everything done in this game. This was very critical for T1. Zoe was not having lane priority prior to this point. Zoe, which means Faker was able to find the perfect position to take this fight, and he picks up literally 100 flashes in that one team fight. Faker picked up 6 votes out of 9 for this POG number 2, and because winning can add up a lot to their playoff run, so we're super excited to check out what's going to happen in game number 2.
Thank you so much, G-Sun, for the wonderful translation there once again of the analyst desk. As Faker does pick it up, obviously, Cuz also had...
By stealing the Drake, because without that Drake still you don't win the game, but then Faker also won the game, so... perfect would have been 4-5, maybe I should have gone for Cuz, but we take those, and suffice it to say, that first match really delivered. I feel like it was merely the execution coming out from T1 that won them that fight. I don't think in terms of... and you saw it as well, like they were fairly hamstrung in what they could actually do. And I hope that in game number 2 we see them have a draft where it's a little bit easier to play out, because in this game it was very, very hard fought, and it does feel like T1, with like the mechanical seeding that these players have, should be able to get a little bit more done in the early game as well. At the same time, though, if we get 3 games, I am not complaining. I am very, very, very happy with that, because this was just a beautiful first game.
Yeah, right. You can't really ban away the Zoe. We know his champion pool is incredibly deep. Cuz was able to do a lot on the Udyr, so maybe you try to at least get that for Pyosik or force a ban on it here early. Some stuff I might focus on.
It's definitely going to get banned. Like, T1's not going to give over the first... If Pyosik ends up on like Hecarim, you're fine, but he can't have Udyr. It's just not allowed, and I'm happy to just, but as you so rightly pointed out, that one wall smash that he found on Bao in that team fight, around the Baron where Faker popped off, those are the type of plays you need. If you don't find those plays, that team fight might look completely different. And from that point of view, I'd imagine that T1 are still wants to put him on something comfortable, because I don't think blind picking Gnar again and like giving King another opportunity to hard carry the game is really the way to go. So I would much rather...
Is hovered and selected, so we know what Pyosik is going to be playing. At least, you know, most likely. Haven't seen the top Hecarim here in the LCK, but who knows about in the future. As now T1, do they just go ahead and scoop that Kai'Sa for Teddy? Do they...
Topside. And Renekton a solid blind pick. If you don't pick the Gnar into it, it's playable, but you can expect Cuz to camp you early on, and then if 1 or 2 of the dives do work out, you're playing from such a deficit. Kana could also go for something like a Proudest Claw to even further worsen that matchup, especially if he gets even an iota of attention. And this is T1 saying, well, you leave it on the table, we have no choice but to pick it away. But now the Kai'Sa's available here, so that means you can go for something like a Kai'Sa Nautilus, a Kai'Sa Alistar, and then you have a really, really good backline dive coming out here from DRX.
Yeah, and a lot of tools to handle what you're seeing on the side of T1 in team fights later on. So I kind of like that path. Let's see if they do go for it here. It's down to 0 seconds. They're going to pick the Gnar. So if we get that pick here, they could still go Gnar Kai'Sa if they wanted to do that, and then pick some, you know, leftover support later on.
And I think that we're going to see the jungle pickup coming off. Sorry, not the jungle pickup. The AD carry pickup here from the side of T1 following this up. And I also expect DRX to pick up the carry. It will be the Kai'Sa, as you said. I think the Kai'Sa synergizes well with the Gnar, with the Hecarim, really hard. In this scenario, you already know DRX pretty committed to going in deep. This is not a comp that from this point on I can see pivot to a poke composition or something that doesn't want to hard engage. And in that scenario, the Xayah does make a lot more sense. Just to be sure. Ban Vector anyway. Just to be sure, we don't want that again.
Yeah, I mean, Soka looks pretty good on that one in the last one, so the ban away comfort, something that was kind of just left available for Soka to scoop up in that last one. after, of course, the Orianna ban. Rakan going to be taken away. They don't want to deal with Xayah Rakan.
I want to see a Lucian ban. I feel like that is something that you don't want to give T1, because then they can actually do whatever they like. And I've heard the rumors of Talon. Okay.
No.
Yeah, I've heard the rumors, Val. There's an AP jungler. Like, is it good? Probably not. Do I want to see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can assure you I do. you want to see it as well. Everyone wants to see it. Don't lie. Is that what's going to come out? Absolutely not. I can see the case for something really safe, really standard, as an Orianna, which of course doesn't have great synergy with an Italy, but Kana is probably going to be the main benefactor of the attention that Cuz is going to pay to his side lane. So I think that as Faker, you can just say, listen, just pay all your attention to Renekton. Like, we already have a self-sufficient bot lane. We'll pick a self-sufficient mid laner as well. Possibility's still there, Valdez. It's an R5 talent angle, I'm just saying.
I don't know. I like the Lucian better. If you're going to go down that line, you know.
I think Lucian is better. But, you know, never let what is quote-unquote better stand in the way of a good time.
Don't let your memes be dreams.
Exactly.
Don't let your dreams
I'm
be
glad.
memes.
I'm glad you know what I'm talking about.
So over here on the side of DRX, the Syndra comes through. The Bard would be interesting. Don't know if we're going to see that one here. They've been hovering a lot of Pyke.
Oh, Kazakh support. Yeah, that's the...
Oh.
All the rate. Oh,
yes.
What? They didn't go for it? No, this is a combo that I think we called at the beginning of the draft, right? The Alistair. It's that or the Nautilus. Super strong.
Master
Very first
Yi.
stop pick.
Zed?
No.
Zed or bed?
No, he wouldn't. No, we can't get excited about this. We're not allowed to. Until it's locked in, we don't talk about hovers. Oh, no, he's just playing with us. No, it's going to be Zoe again. No, it's not happening. It's not happening. They let us wait till the last second.
Yeah.
And they don't give it to us. This, of course, does make a lot of sense. The 2v2 is kind of awkward, where you will be able, as Sorka, to build just a lot of magic resist, and then the consistent poke that comes out from the T1 bot lane. It's not as great. I feel like T1's comp is not super coherent. You're kind of looking on one side to go in and dive aggressively, or try to get into the enemy backline with the Leon and the Renekton. But then, you know, Nidalee, the Zoe, they just want to poke. Teddy wants to kite back, so not a huge fan of the T1 draft here. I feel like something like the Lucian would have actually been preferable to me. I feel like you are then able to put out a lot more pressure than you will be able to with the Zoe. The fact that Faker can teamfight with this pick is very self-explanatory after what we just saw, but I feel like the T1, like, what's the best way to put this? The margin between playing well and just getting run over by hard engage from Hecarim, Renekton, Gnar, like, I don't know if that's going to end up well. I did really like what DRX have drafted here, and it's a lot more coherent than what T1 has shown, but then again, T1's mechanical execution in the last game was exquisite.
Yeah, I do feel like the drafts in the last game were a little bit more coherent, as you put it, right? I think both sides kind of had that down. This time around, you know, you give DRX a bit of a draft win, and maybe they just run with that and take over. And maybe that gives us our third game. You know, the draft isn't everything, but certainly feels pretty good about what they were able to pick up this time around. But let's see what happens here in game number 2, as we will hop onto the Rift once again. DRX on the blue side, T1 on the red, so the colors matching this time around. And, you know, maybe Cuz puts on an early game clinic again, doesn't allow Kingen to play. You know, maybe they really get into the face of DRX and shut down that top lane. And that's one way to try to push the issue early.
That's what you need to do, I think, as T1. I think that you can, if you really want, right, if everything else fails, there's always the Teddy win condition, where it's just Teddy in a team fight. But that's not really where you want to be, because I do think that Faker actually has a lot less space than compared to the last game, because last game, very nice. Game 1, 100% win or hit rate on spears.
GG?
Yeah, that's where you just...
Is that
I'd say so, yeah.
Zero?
Yeah, sure enough. Where last game he had 3 frontliners, right? And like big frontliners as well. You had the Gnar, especially in Mega, is basically unkillable. unless you focus a lot of attention with Udyr, and then we had Nautilus. This game, Renekton, definitely more of an off-tank, right? Up until like 2-3 items he can decently tank, but then later in the game, not nearly as much the case, and a very squishy mid laner, meaning that there will be less space for Faker to do what he did last game. So then you end up with, can Teddy find those late game carry potential if you don't win the early game? And that's, you need to, right? This is Renekton Nidalee. This is what it does.
Because DRX are a really strong team, and they were one play away from winning that game. DRX could have easily won that first game. It had a couple of things gone their way, just a little bit extra, but not the way it eventually played it out. So T1 will have their hands full in this game, and we'll see if it does work out. I feel like so far, things, of course, being a little bit quiet. It looks like Cuz is going to go for that first full clear. No shenanigans, nothing too early on. Faker taking some nice trades in the mid lane, having some fun with the Syndra, as you try to do.
That's some APM right there. You see that movement? Oh, baby.
Well, 8-3 on the Renekton. It's definitely a nice win rate. Kana is not necessarily somebody like a Rascal or somebody who's like, oh, you can't give this guy Renekton, but he's definitely good at the pick, as we can see.
And it's something that has been, I think, literally the highest ban rate within the LCK over the course of the whole split.
Is it happening?
Oh,
it's happening.
Oh boy.
No surprise here, guys. As the flashes all coming in, 2 from the side of T1. They're really trying to force this and not even going to land that second spear. But they're going to be able to get this proxy going here for Kana and make life difficult for King to start off.
And that's unfortunate, but I'm pretty sure that if King can't teleport back, he does, never mind. I'm like, I could see them go for it and just immediately punish him as Kaz?
Ghost is going to come in here. He's trying to get him off the wall, and with no flash available, it's a little bit awkward for Cuz, but a flash over the wall now from Solka, who, oh man, he's going to get kited out here. No flash on the Syndra. The flash comes in now from Faker. The sleep coming in. The damage will be there. First blood to the Zoe, as Kana now is going to move forward and look to bite off a little bit more, but just going to have to be satisfied with the 1 kill.
And it is in the end, the double scuttle going over to DRX, but a kill going to the Zoe from Faker. And with last game's performance in mind, that's not the start you are looking for here as DRX, as now the teleport advantage is pretty much gone. And yeah, post 6 you can definitely do that as Syndra. Pre-6, not so much.
Yeah, Solka got excited. You know, got a KT fan on her hands. But that's okay. Maybe that's something that you can learn from early on in the game, so perhaps you play a little bit safer as this game does come along. But we'll have to wait and see. Really trying to bite off a little bit more than he could chew in that moment. We'll see if we have a return gank up to the top side, because while it was a 1 flash for 2, if you get the flash away from the Gnar, you do set up potential kills in the future. As we're going to take another look here at this fight.
And it's the early presence of Syndra, one of the reasons why she is so popular, that has Faker very low. Cause with a really nice sidestep here on this scatter, is then able to jump over the wall. This is still fine. I think as Solka, you're never allowed to go over it because you have a Hecarim who just has Ghost, who can't actually follow you.
And no scatter!
Yeah, you just use your scatter, right? And like, even then, there's a Renekton there, so you definitely die. And this is beautiful for Gun as well. Like, go in with the slice and dice, use your Empower Q to heal up, and then go
이 정도만 해도 이거 개득 미드 K로 나와. 천천히 해봐.
He said, you know, if we can get this going early, I can carry in the future, basically.
Well, after last game, I can't fault him for that assessment. And
he said take it slow.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know,
Take it easy.
All right, kids, let's, you know, let's calm down here.
I'll have you know, this is the veteran lineup, okay?
True.
These guys are like, instead of 17, they're like 20.
But still, compared to Faker, everything.
Well, yeah.
As we do have a tree down on the bottom side, Becca looks like he's just dead. Not sure how that one started, but still it's a 2v2 kill, this time in favor of T1's bottom lane. So, again, as I mentioned, no flash for Kingen, no escape. And that's just what that's going to mean. And Faker finds Pioshik. I don't know if he can get any help from his team, but he's at least being annoying here. And gets a nice little angle. Is going to teleport to mid, so is forced to blow that summoner at least.
I mean, he is unsealed spellbook. I don't know about that one. And as a whole, beautiful play there from T1. You make use of, as you so rightly pointed out, the blown flash on the Gnar, right? If he's in mini Gnar and he doesn't have a flash and you're inactive, that is just basically a dead Yordle on your screen. And yeah, this is just straight up. I don't know why Daka is there if Bao has no mana and is looking to back. Just a miscommunication, presumably. And with no, look, timeout comes in. Actually, I would have loved if Kingen moved into the Dominus range here, because that would have, like, procced the turret shot, and then maybe Kana would have, you know, taken an extra one or two, and then that would have been it. But he would have died regardless. Kingen, there's no way that he ever lives there. This is the power of Renex and Italy. It's not enough to win you the game, but it's definitely enough to get you.
Action, that's for sure. Keria, he knows out Faker here. As now we're looking to turn the tides potentially. Not have his Dominus. That's going to be the Gnar into the wall. We got the Horsey on top of him, and there's no escape for him now. So at least DRX is able to trade a kill back in very similar fashion.
The life of a top laner.
Yeah.
Big wave stacked, you know what's coming, but without Dominus or Flash available, there's no way they can't outplace that. I think it was looking for an empowerment to kill the Meek there at the end to maybe sustain up for a little bit longer.
Ooh, gonna miss on that one, but he lands the bubble. No flash available for Solka, and with the Everfrost, you might just go down. And yes, he does. As now the ultimate comes out here from the Hecarim, the flash a little bit optimistic there. He had Keria coming in, so probably on the comms. Heard the shouting and thought maybe there was a chance, but it's just a trade of kills and a denial on the Rift Herald for DRX.
It's not amazing. I feel like T1, while still getting the early game pressure that we want from them, is not really hitting the tempo yet that we'd very much like to see. You know, Teddy is just casually playing 1v2, has a Featherstorm available, so he's actually allowed to do that here, especially with Keria now in the vicinity. And I would love to see T1 go for some aggressive Drake play. This is one of those situations where it's not optional. You need to get those Drakes, right? Like, yes, you want to play around your top side. Yes, you want to try and feed Kana as we get a lane swap here. I don't think that Solka is going to be very happy against a Renekton.
Yeah, and T1's like, yeah, okay, I guess we'll just take the Rift Herald.
Yeah.
Because you're not having priority in the top side anymore. I mean, you weren't going to anyway. But you just feel so confident when you see that. You're like, okay, we can just take this down for free. And that they will. At about 10 minutes, that will be taken here. So this could potentially get that tempo you were talking about going. Get a couple of those kills, and Cuz picks up the Rift Herald, and they'll be looking for the Ocean Drake.
Teddy's just sitting in the brush like, come on, Bao, you want that wave. No, you do. Doesn't actually come forward though. Bao is disciplined. Will have his back cancelled there, I assume, by Teddy. Maybe just his presence enough to make him back off. And that should be the Drake coming in here. Without any hitch. We see the prio in bot side, we see a lot of pressure in mid lane from Faker, who's just stacked the big wave, which of course Solka can clear, but they won't really have the time to respond. Kana just needs to play weak side, is playing very respectfully, which we love to see. And that means that this early game snowball that T1 so desperately needs has actually, or is actually, it's being built up, right? It's coming, it's rolling, and it looks like Kana's going to go for Strikebreaker. Think it makes sense. I like Prowler's Claw personally, but the Strikebreaker provides a little bit more beefiness if you do want to look for team fights.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're watching this again. This is, I mean, yeah. He tries to clear the wave. He can't because Kingen knows that that's what he wants to do. And they're too tanky. This is really nice because that's an MVP world right there, right? Because otherwise, a different team might go in with Faker and Kazde, get flanked, and then Sorka blows you up. Now, of course, this is still not the cleanest play. They underestimate the rotational speed, which against the Hecarim is not really something you can afford to do. But it's still something that, in a deficit, works out decently well as Kingen.
Uh-oh. Well, he does have Flash this time, and he is Mega Gnar for the beginning of that, at least. So he's even going to hold on to his ultimate there, so pretty fine as Keria just taking a beating here from the cow. Actually trying to turn this around. He's going in. Look at him. He's going 1v2, and he sets up the kill now for Faker. And that is the presence you need to be a superstar support player.
Oh, he shows him the sunglasses. He shows him the dab. Keria there. That's a play where once it starts, you're like, wait, what's happening? And then he finds the kill. Really nicely combined together with Faker. And this is a draft that can have early lane king. We mentioned it earlier. It's definitely happening right now. T1 able to find a 3k gold lead early on. Picked up the first Drake. Still has a Herald in the pocket that they can drop somewhere. And every single lane is winning, Valdez.
Yeah. And, you know, as you mentioned, this is what we needed to see, right? When we saw it on paper, we're like, there are some holes in this draft that could be taken advantage of, especially if they don't get the tempo in the early game. But they did everything right, and DRX was not able to respond in any way, really.
It's a classic case of they could lose, but not if they win, which is what T1 is showing us here. And yeah, this is looking like a done and dusted deal. And Keria doesn't even hit the solo flare, but has the confidence that Faker is going to back him up, and that flash just adds insult to injury. Cuz also in the general vicinity to help out his teammates, and this is just looking like a dominant set of early game rotations and plays here from T1. If they also pick up a Drake, could still be a Cloud, but if you get a Mountain, you're feeling very good.
Oh, not again. Well, he's just... even Cuz is getting it on this one. Faker's like, yeah, you can have it this time. I'm fine with that. And he still has the Rift Herald, guys.
Listen,
so
I think this is where the trumpets start playing, and like, well, this is not the game you're looking for. As DRX, it was a very hard-fought game number one. Yeah. And honestly, this is why we don't see Renekton and Italy go through drafts, right? You need to ban one of the two. Generally, you just ban the Renekton and you're done with it. Otherwise, yeah, this can happen.
Even with Kana getting bodied by Mega Gnar, it doesn't matter. They already got the job done. And you can see Keria's not scared of any cow here. We're almost nearing the point where we just stop talking about the game and we start talking about narrative. Like, oh my god, what does this mean for playoffs? Like, T1 are looking so good. We're getting there. We're getting close, Chronicler.
I don't know who you're trying to fool. We all know that when the LCK is not about the game anymore, we talk about... Oh, wait, it's you. We can't talk about pop culture. Oh, that's,
what do you mean?
That's a painful one.
Don't you remember that reference I made in
actually, you're
first
right.
Series?
You know, you've actually been improving. I really appreciate that.
Leroy Jenkins. Cuz is actually just looking at solo king in. Gets the flash available. That's a nice little exhaust that Faker was able to pick up. Ignite comes in, and more sparkles. Is just barely able to get him. That was actually looking like a little bit of enough health, but I guess just barely enough. On the Ignite damage comes out, and he gets the kill.
Yeah, so about this pop culture reference, because unfortunately, like, you can't fault Kingen for this. You can possibly criticize the Gnar pick, but I don't think there's a lot of picks that do better here. Like, even a Sion, which is traditionally one of the strongest weak side laners, like, we've seen Sions get bodied in this exact matchup. It is just the power, and you need to go for these Hail Mary kind of plays. I like it. That's the only thing that's really available here to you as DRX, because I think in a late game scenario you might be fine if you find a dive, but with how absurdly big this gold deficit is, this is 6k, and T1 still have 100% win rate with a gold lead at 15 minutes.
15 minutes into the game and 6K. Over 6,000 gold even. And Keria, you know, everybody on the side of T1 is smurfing, right? Keria has been so present. This is like one of those solo queue games where the enemy support is always in the mid lane and your support is never there. Of course, he's able to do that because of the way the bottom lane went as well. So you talked about all the lanes winning. You know, Keria's making the most of it. He's extending beyond just the bottom lane. He's able to leave Teddy there alone and extend into a great spot. I thought maybe I was going to curse him there, but I did not. The level 10 Horsey is scared of level 8 Leona, of course, with a lot of
Yeah,
back.
I was about to say, I don't think it's Leona specifically
Yeah.
he's scared for. But this is a win lane, win game composition from T1, right? And they won lane. And what follows then logically is win game. And there are situations where people pick this kind of draft and then they don't find the leads that they need. And we go into the mid game with like maybe 2 3k gold lead and 1 or 2 Drakes. And that's salvageable.
0G.
Yeah. This is starting to... This is the worst part. You can see 4 plates by T1. Cuz has only been topside. Cuz
In the bottom lane. Yeah.
No, sorry, yeah. It's 4 plates in the bottom lane where Cuz has not been.
Yeah.
It's just Teddy and Carrier who, I think this is their way of saying, sorry for last game, guys. We can do better. And
Yeah.
they did.
I mean, it's crazy, too, how they had like a rough time in game number 1 and they were still such a big factor. You know, like everybody was looking at the flashy plays of, you know, Kana, Cuz, Faker, but, you know, Carry had some big moments. Teddy was doing consistent damage, so everything's really coming together for T1, you know? It's definitely a much better look now towards the end of round 2. And I don't know, I think the world would just explode if they moved off of this roster now. I think once you do this well against 2 top teams in a row, why ever change, right? There's no reason to anymore. There's no experimentation excuse,
Honestly,
right? There's no reason.
listen,
You just
this-
keep them together.
This might be a controversial take, but if they just play this roster, right, for the rest of the players and they do this really well, then the experiment was actually arguably a success. You've gotten a ton of
sure.
intel, right? Like you know now the weaknesses of your newer players, your rookies. And this roster apparently cannot play for an entire split and still stomp people. So, you know, who's the fools now, Valdez? Because I think, understandably and justifiably so, there was a lot of criticism levied towards T1.
Yeah.
But then seeing how this roster is performing thus far, it makes you forget. Like, we forget easily. We have short memories, right? We like the teams and want them to do well. And if you see this, you're like, well, you know, that is what they're doing. They're doing really well. Everyone is a bounty. Even Teddy, who just got that of plate goal and CS. And that is literally just it. Yeah. I don't really know what to say more about this one. It's an Italy Renekton composition with a Leona, and they've won in every lane, meaning that they can hard engage, they can shut down individual targets, they have really strong side laning, and barring huge colossal mistakes, like Teddy probably is never gonna die in this game, because if you dive Teddy, then he feather storms, right, and then there's
Gale
still
forces away.
yeah, and then the worst part is, you still have a fed Renekton and Zoe and Italy. Like, these are all problems that
And
you need to
Leona.
solve. Well, yeah. I
Fed
mean, even
Leona,
Leona.
too. Don't
I
forget
mean,
about her.
Oh, God.
Oh, that was a nice dodge by Solka.
I like it.
If you're DRX and you're trying to win from here, 0 mistakes. You can't get caught. Nobody can die. And then you need to pull off something crazy in the team fight. Right?
And we haven't talked about this because, you know, we're so used to being disappointed, but it's actually a relevant soul, which is great. We don't have that a lot here in the LCK. If you know, maybe you don't watch all the games. We have a statistical anomaly with the amount of Cloud Souls.
Yeah.
It gets found.
I don't think Kana really cares. I think he can 1v2 them. Like,
He doesn't care.
even with the Ignite, you could see that DRX are just like, you know what? Like, we don't know 100% where everybody is. We have
doesn't
to
even
respect
dominate.
this. Yeah, he's fine. He didn't even flash. He just stride breakers away. And you can see he's even sniffing around here. He's like, is anyone left? Yeah. Not actually going to be able to hit Yoshi Fair. We got a big push that's happening in the top lane, getting a nice amount of damage here. Still pretty early on in the game, guys. We're at 20 minutes. And Kana is just playing it really smart. He knows that the game has kind of shifted away from, okay, we're diving the Gnar. He's now on the weak side, and he will not die.
The weak side Crocodile coming in hard. And why not, right? Like, your team is getting 3 turrets on top side. They're getting a lot of pushes on the inhibitor turret. And all you need to do is not die, because in 40 seconds the Drake is spawning. That Drake brings even more resistances. And We say jokingly about the T1 composition that of course it doesn't scale super well. If you win lane this hard, like the scaling doesn't become nearly as much of a problem, and then if you get a Mountain Saw as well, it actually is a really big problem, because if you look at the DRX damage, it's mostly burst based, right? Like the Syndra and the Gnar, they rely on these big flashy plays, like throw all your abilities in and that's pretty much it. Bao to a lesser extent, if he can proc his passive multiple times, can do a little bit more, and Pioshik with the Q spam can get some damage done, but oh boy.
Oh, he's going to find him there. And we have the stun lock coming in. See you later. Spear from miles away for huge amounts of damage. Now Becca's going to have to ult here. And it's just chaos on the Rift. Nobody can get away from T1. Becca not even able to get through the wall. And that's 2 free kills right before the Mountain Drake. And Keria is just laughing at you. I mean, this is impossible for King and Bound to do anything, even to the support. Not able to kill him in time before the team does come in.
And you said DRX needs to make no mistakes. Obviously, as DRX, you can't really contest. But you also see, like, even if you don't contest that, like, the deficit between, or the discrepancy between these two teams is so absurdly huge that King just used a full-on ultimate on a Leona that I don't think had Aftershock procced. And he did nothing. Like, it was like, what, 30% of a health? It's just, I don't know. Look at this bot side vision as well. Dragon gets taken. And, you know, we set the win condition in the draft. T1, you need to snowball. They snowballed, and now it's basically the easiest game ever to play out. Just group up, throw your poke, and you have such an insane amount of gold over your opponents. You need to make sure that you don't get caught in the side lane, but this is something that I'm really happy to see, is that T1 actually, they're playing respectful. Kana earlier, right, it was rightly so pointed out, even though he's literally standing like pretty close in his own territory, he's just like, no, I'm not going to give them an opening, not going to give them an out. And that's a position where as T1 you can just do whatever you want on the map besides that.
Yeah. It's an awesome feel if you're T1 right now. They're scouring around the Baron here, trying to deny as much vision as possible. DRX, they're going back to some old school strategies. Nobody's in the brush. Nice job, Jonah Strong. No, not that one either. Oh, they're on your blue buff, of course. That's where they are.
And this, I love this. Like, this is yet again an example of like how Smurf our observers are, because it's so easy to forget like how much the players don't see. Is he gonna face check? Is it gonna work? The bamboozle?
Do you think they have any idea? Oh, Faker checks it! And now, actually, Keria might die here. He's got the Aftershock going, though. Will he survive through 3 people shelling onto him? Looks like the answer will be no, but it doesn't matter. He survives for long enough, and everybody else on the side of DRX will die. Teddy 1v1ing the Gnar here. The ultimate does come in, though, but the burst is not there. Faker's able to come in and help him out. And now it's almost a 10,000 gold lead at 24 minutes as T1 will casually take the Baron.
You gotta love DRX for that play. They realized this game is all but lost. We're gonna go for the Hail Mary. Hope someone makes mistakes. Run them over and go from that. Unfortunately, this T1 clearly not in the mood for fun and games. Faker sniffing that one out. And as you said, yeah, collapsing on this Leona. I don't know about that one, Chief, as they throw everything into him. It doesn't actually do anything. Cuz is there, Faker is there, the teleports are immediately channeled, and as soon as it's not like a 5v2, as DRX, you know, like, this is over, right? We're so far behind, there's just no way that we're gonna make this work, as I'm pretty sure Bao just blows up.
Oh, so this is why they didn't have a Kaisa. I see. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
He does cleanse, but he doesn't flash. I mean, there wasn't really enough time to react to that. Oh, Observer's at it again. Where is everybody? They're all here in the brush again and trying to fight from 10,000 gold down, but it seems like there are enough members of T1 here to get the damage done. The Zenith lane is going to miss, but it just doesn't matter. They're smurfing him. We got the triple kill for the Xayah. Can we set up the Penta?
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 Penta? No.
No, this isn't Ruler. No. They're all going to run away. DRX not happy with the way this game is going to go. No free Pentas here. But it is the triple for the Xayah, and that's good enough.
They just keep doing this. I can't believe it.
Oh, trying to burst down Faker. He's got the W flash, and he is going to go down. So they do kill him. And the unofficial Penta comes in, the triple-double. Over to Teddy on the Xayah. So there you go. We have an interesting end to the game. T1 with the Baron on 26 minutes. They're actually looking to push to end this one. We'll see if they can actually pull it off here, as their wallets are so incredibly large right now. Stacking up the cash. In goes Kana, finds Solka. See you later. Puts him in the ground. And that's going to do it, guys. 26 minutes is...
Let him live. Come on.
How long it takes. We have the feathers coming out. We have the spears and all that fun jazz as they're going in for this one. And they do pick up the kill. And as it is fun and games here, Teddy is still looking for kills under the fountain here. As there you go. He's even going to survive. As 26.5 minutes, T1 dominate them in game number 2 as well. And man, that is a refreshing look for T1 once again, back to back. Got to be feeling happy if you're a T1 fan.
When you draw for next in Italy, you set yourself for a problem, which is, are you good enough? Are you strong enough? Are you aggressive enough? Do you win lane? When the answer to that question is yes, it is just absolutely devastating, as we saw here. Nothing to be done here for DRX. It was a risk, surely taken in draft, but when you see them pay it off like this, there is not a lot that you can do. Past that early game as DRX, you know, you just look back to it. I guess when we see them, they'll probably still all be smiling, because I really like the brushes, right? It was multiple Mission Impossibles. Unfortunately, unlike the movies, in this case, Mission Impossible was actually Mission Impossible. Sorry for the movie reference. I know that's not really your forte, but I had to go
It's
there.
fine. No, you get a pass.
I'm glad. I'm glad. And as a whole, I think this confirms two things. DRX, while a strong team, seem to, unlike in the middle of the split, not necessarily be on the same level as a Gen G, as a T1, who look reinvigorated and look to be real contenders going into the playoffs, especially considering T1 beat Gen G beat Damwon Kia, and that's not really how it works. We're not going to dive into the math of it, but what it does mean is that there's actually a lot of, like, these teams should be close, and they should be great matches, and DRX just a little bit behind that, but they do have a lot of fun, and you know, when all else fails, go for the Fnatic Brush 3 times in a row and hope Faker doesn't throw bubbles in there. Yeah,
might as well. It was a really nice sniff out there from the side of T1. And as you said before, I think you put it the best. You know, we have short memories here, right? And say what you will about all the experimentation and all the hate that the coaches got and all this stuff. If T1 come in and they challenge Damwon potentially for the spring title, nobody's, you know, are people really going to still harp on the way that the early round 1 went? I hope not. So things definitely have turned around in a huge way for T1. We should be happy with that. So we do have the highlights ready to go. Let's hop into those and take a look at how this incredibly dominant game did play out.
And this is really DRX opting into early skirmishing against the Renekton Nidalee comp. That's not the way you want to go about it, especially not with your non-mid position. Hecarim on level 4, yes, he's strong, but it's not really comparable to the raw power and versatility that you have. We saw some highlights from DRX, right? Like, there were some moments where they are actually attempted to the plays, and this is something that I think does really separate DRX, besides the mechanical skill, is how they are a team that no matter what the game state is, they will look for plays. They will look for openings, and often they won't find them, but that 1 in 100, they will actually get through with it. And that's something that I think that's hard to create, right? That your team either has that or not. It's not something you can really build, and that's something that as we go into the playoffs could possibly still make DRX kind of a dark horse team where you're like, they're probably not going to make it. What if? You know? What if they do?
Yeah, and that's why these playoffs are getting more interesting by the match, right? Now that we have T1 who actually seem to be in form coming into playoffs at the perfect time, DRX, while they did lose this one, they had a great game 1, and again, had one thing gone differently, maybe they win that game number 1, and now we're going into a third game. Could be contenders. We could possibly have 6 teams that could challenge for that spring title, so playoffs get more and more interesting by the day. As these highlights, we already saw it happen. It's, you know, it's kind of just crazy T1 smacking them with their wallets because they're so far ahead. Like, not really much that DRX could do. They try to go for the Fnatic rushes, but they can only do so much here.
DRX's Mission Impossible. I guess Pioshik, that makes Pioshik that Tom Cruise, where he's trying to make the impossible work. As already mentioned, it's simply too much. I love this. Like, it happens here, and it happened on top line, and then it also happens in a very minor fashion earlier on. You might look at this and go like, what is DRX doing? But let's be honest, DRX have lost this game 100%. Yeah, I guess 99%, and they're looking for the 1% play, which should not work. And fortunately for T1, did not work. And T1, they look reinvigorated, right? Like, this is a roster where we know that they can perform. We know that they are incredibly strong, and yeah, that is a very different game here coming out from Teddy, who this time got to play in a composition that actually, you know, wants to get close to him, wants to kill him, and then all of a sudden, those numbers look very differently.
Which is pretty funny because a lot of the early game plays were top lane, you know, dives. We had Leona roaming around the map and stuff like that. And Teddy was just like kind of soloing down on the bottom side, but he still managed to get the top damage in that game. So we do have the Alice desk ready. I'm going to hand it over to Ji-sun for the translation.
Thank you very much, guys. And T1, their spring split, or rather, the play of TNA is starting to click in. Because, once again, he had to play around the top lane, he had to cover the top lane. And Pioshik had to keep his eyes on Cuz, and T1 once again had a very strong topside comp. Literally, Renekton duo was like locked in. So they had to be aware of the early turret dive attempt of T1, and Kingen was able to absorb that really effectively, but with a very off play coming out from Syndra, T1 was able to easily secure a lead in this game. And as time goes by, Zoe is naturally getting the priority and lead, but that happened too early in this game, so DRX was not able to turn the game around. Syndra did have line priority, so she was able to make a cover for his teammates fighting around the scuttle, but she got overextended, and then that was the point where Zoe was able to exert her pressure after picking up some kills. T1 failed their first turret dive attempt here, so it was a really good trade-off for Kingen, but still, DRX was able to somehow lose this trade in the end. And Kingen, because of the sloppy combo pulled off by Kana, due to the synergy with the hop from Gnar, Kingen was able to survive that dive. And Soka had lane priority, so she was able to shove in the wave, which means she can rotate to the scuttle and add more kind of pressure on Cuz. And Renekton was not under DRX vision, so maybe Soka kind of missed out on the fact that Renekton could be in a close proximity as well. Cuz was really having some nice side steps over there, but at the same time, Soka committed really hard. Even without his Gather the Weak, and after Faker picked up that kill, we could hear from the mic check that this is time for the mid carry game. And after that kill, naturally Zoe gets to get that early lane's priority. And after that, we saw multiple over-aggression coming out from DRX compared to T1, a team that stayed really calm and collected throughout the series. Kyria makes a rotation up to the mid lane with some good reasoning. And Becca engages onto Kyria, but Soka needed to take this tempo in order to regain his priority on that lane, but Becca goes over eagerly on the Leona, and actually T1 was able to turn that around for a kill. So we had multiple mistakes that was made by DRX. I'm pretty sure they were in a rush in this series, whereas T1, the veterans, were able to stay really calm, poised in this game. Let's check out the POG. on the side of T1, and it's gonna be Kyria on Leona.
네, 레오나죠.
He had some fantastic roam play pulled off by Kyria. Once he was able to rotate to other sides of the map, he was able to dominate the tempo of this game. Let's take a look at the solo kill that was made on the bottom lane. And that's where Kyria was able to get the priority and spread his influence on the other side of the map. And because of that cover coming from Kyria, Faker was able to hold the firm control of that lane for Syndra in this game. It's gonna be so scary for him to stand in lane, and Leona is a menace for Syndra. Whenever she doesn't have a flash, well, she's always there to get you.
탱커가 레넥톤 말고는 없어 보일 수 있는데 레오나가 정말 튼튼한 편이고.
Well, T1 had double frontline as well. Renekton and Leona. This champion can also eat up a lot of damage, so he was able to contribute to a lot of teamfights in this game. And 549 votes secured by Kyria for that POG. Now let's invite Faker and Kyria for a POG interview.
안녕하세요. 승리 축하드립니다.
Hello, congratulations on your win.
안녕하세요.
Hello.
안녕하세요.
오늘은 박수를 안 치시네요.
Congratulations.
인사드리죠. 네, 이렇게 1라운드 복수를 시원하게
T1
성공했습니다.
accomplished their
들어볼게요.
first
페이커
round
선수.
vengeance. How are you feeling, guys?
네, 저희가 1라운드 때 DRX한테 되게
In the
아쉽게
first
패배를
round, well,
했었는데
Robin,
이번에
yeah,
다시
it was a bummer that we
승리할 수
fell
있어서
to DRX with
더
after a very
만족스러운 것
close
같습니다.
series. So I'm really satisfied with this result that we got today.
선수도 오늘 정말
And Kyria,
이길 수 있을 것 같은데
I could
소감
see
들어볼게요.
your desire to win today. So how are you feeling right now?
주셔서 많이 아쉬웠었는데.
Yeah, I was pretty much bummed after losing the matchup against DRX in the first round robin. And I'm glad that we were able to pick up a very clean win prior heading into the playoffs. And Kyria, let's talk about game number 1. After the third Drake teamfight, T1 was able to go for a very dicey Baron try, and you guys were able to find a huge success. Whose call was that? At that Dragon teamfight, I made a huge mistake. So we were trying to figure out what to do next. And DRX was actually playing the tempo too long, so I was like, we have to just go for this Baron try, because DRX was not letting go of that tempo at that time, so we were able to turn it around with that Baron try, and I made that call. And Faker, Jace actually got super fed and Gnar was having a hard time, but Zoe was able to gank top lane, opened up more space for Gnar, and then later on, Zoe was able to just flash 100 times in a team fight and take a huge win.
일단 그때 한타 구도가 그렇게 처음에는
Well,
좋지 않았던 것
that
같은데
team fight positioning was not in favor of
카이사를 잡으면서
our
좀 좋게
side,
된
but we were
한타로
able
기억이
to pick up a
나거든요.
kill onto
근데
that Kai'Sa, and we were able to turn that
전멸이 좀 많이
around.
떨어져 있어서
And there were a lot of flashes on the ground,
그냥 W 키를 막 눌렀더니
So I was just spamming my W key and we won.
그럴 때 되게 재밌죠.
아, 그런가요?
그렇죠. 네, 그럼 이제 1, 2경기 모두
In both game 1 and 2, you played Unsealed Spell Zoe, but we had different item build. First, game number 1, you built for Ludens. Game number 2, you built Everfrost, and a lot of people are saying that Everfrost is super OP right now. So why did you try two different builds?
이 경기 때는 좀
Game 2,
상대방이
the opponents.
저를 좀 많이 노릴 것 같아서
I thought the opponents will be rotating to mid a lot, so I wanted to get one more survivability.
그러면 이제 2세트 선취 후에 좀 흡족한 표정이 카메라에
After
잡혔거든요. 오늘 전반적으로
getting that
게임
first
내용이
blood in the
만족스러우신가요?
second game, we saw a huge green on your face, so we're
아무래도
satisfied with your
좀 키도 많이
performance today.
따고
I got
맨날 세라핀만
plenty of
하다가
kills,
조율을
and
하니까
I've been
좀
putting
답답한
onto
것
that
같습니다.
Seraphim duty, but now that I get to play Zoe, I'm happy. Is Zoe more fun to play?
그렇군요.
Absolutely.
질문을 캐리아 선수한테 드릴게요. 캐리아 선수가 막픽으로
Kyria,
제드랑 아리를 띄우면서
you were hovering Zed and Ari on the last pick, so a lot of fans were getting super excited.
그냥 이제
I just
이제 팬분들
wanted to
기대하시라고.
make fans, hyped up. I mean,
재밌으시라고.
I wanted to add some entertainment. I mean, I don't know how I should put it, but yeah, just for fun.
주문한 게 아니라 키리아 선수가 그냥 하신 거죠?
That was not Faker's call, no? Yeah, it was my idea.
페이커 선수는 지켜보시면서
Faker,
좀 어떤 느낌이었는지
what did you feel when
궁금합니다.
Kyria was hovering one of your signature picks?
저는 어차피 그
I
똥챔은 할 생각이 없었기
I
때문에
have no plan at all to play those bad champions, you know? Those are not strong right now, so I slowly getting their spring split mode on, and a lot of fans are slowly getting excited as well. So any message over to the T1's fans?
네, 이제 곧 있으면 플레이오프인데
The playoffs is around the corner.
지금 뭐 저희가 아직 완벽한 상태는 아니지만
We are not at
폼을
the
올려서
perfect state, but we will do our best to bring our form to the best level
꼭 좋은 모습 보여드리고
in
싶네요.
order to show a good performance during playoffs.
때문에 많이들 기대하실 것 같습니다. 자, 캐리아 선수도 이제
캐리아.
5년 스플릿 연속으로 플레이오프에 진출한 T1과
T1 is heading to playoffs for 5 splits in a row. So how far do you want to go here, and how are we going to prepare for the Africa Freaks and Hana Life Esports series? Same.
요즘 경기력 그렇게 막 엄청
Our performance these days, I mean, well, I think we have to improve our performance. We are still on our process. I wish we could come back stronger in the upcoming series and also in the playoffs and reach higher. Thank you very much once again for this interview, and I'm going to pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Ji-sun, once again for the awesome translation there of the analyst desk and interview. Good to hear from Faker and Keria. Keria just being a mainstay, not being swapped out, of course, on the T1 lineup. Faker coming back in, swooping in right at the perfect time before T1 get into playoffs, securing that spot for them, taking a couple of big wins for the team. And now, I mean, things are really on the up and up for T1.
Oh, yeah. And we already pointed out, I don't know about you, I have a short memory. T1's winning, so they've always been winning.
Yeah, you know, just wipe everything else out of your brain.
Think about that.
They got there in the end. So we do have the play of the day ready. We're going to check on that one and see who is able to pick that one up here. As it ends up being from the first series, actually, DRXㅣ, the carrying gunner.
I mean, I see that Garaga's cask, and I'm like, I don't know about that one. But this is, maybe not necessarily this play, but as a whole, DRXㅣ's positioning in these team fights for Nongshim has been so incredibly pivotal, right? And you can see here that the rest of the team, all they're really trying to do is just buy space for him so that he can keep autoing. And unlike some of the other AD carries that we've seen who are a little bit likely to, you know, jump in and then immediately die, DRXㅣ walks that line between hard carrying and like getting blown up so incredibly well on champions like the Tristana. And you need to also 100% bend fresh, because otherwise he plays a Fedios and he just kind of beats you. As Rocket jumps out. Oh man, I actually love the animations of Tristana up close. That was super cool.
That was pretty awesome. Get your cameras, guys. We have the standings ready, so we'll get an update on what happened after that series, and you can see now T1 are slowly climbing the ranks, at least, you know, one step closer as they do join DRX at 9 wins.
And of course, DRX is still ahead of them, but if DRX are losing, they will be in a bit of a pickle. Of course, qualify for playoffs, right? So it's nothing major, but it does kind of solidify what we feel like, which is where T1 might actually join those top 4 teams. And with top 4, I mean Hanwha Live, Gen.G, and Damwon Kia, rather, right? Where it feels like there's a little bit more of a gap. Damwon Kia, to me, still feels like a league of their own, but I mean, Gen.G have shown that even the gods of Damwon Kia can bleed, and going into playoffs, that's really what you're looking for. Our good teams are looking better, right? The race for 6th is still ongoing, and this Liv Sandbox versus Breon game also carries a lot of importance for that 6th place spot with it.
Yeah, it is pretty massive, you know. It's going to be just another one of these playoff deciders, right?
Oh, yeah.
The second match is a little bit, that could be a little bit yikes, right? I mean, Gen.G are really on the up and up outside of their loss to T1, which is kind of that Gen.G debuff that does come in versus T1. And KT kind of looking at like a Rika's team right now, so might be a bit of a yikes series, but that first one definitely holds a lot of importance when it does come to playoffs. But thank you so much once again, guys, for watching. We really appreciate it, and we will see you tomorrow for more of the LCK. Have a good night.